Thank you everyone for joining in. I guess we'll wait another couple minutes before everyone joins in, and then we can start our session. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining. Yeah. So all right, let's make this happen. Welcome Joanna. Welcome Ashwin to this call. We've got two amazing people, actually Yocket superstars, who's joined us for the session. Firstly, we have our own Wonder Woman, Joanna Philip, with us. Introducing Joanna. Introducing Joanna. Joanna has got an MBA admits from both Cambridge, Oxford University. She's a mother, she's a wife, she's an Air Force veteran. She has graduated from psychology major, and now she is here with us.
Hi, everybody. It's really nice to be here. Looking forward to this next hour. Thank you, Raza.
And then we have Ashwin. Ashwin has gotten into one of the top cybersecurity programs across the world. He's gotten admits from CMU, Texas A&M, NYU, Georgia Tech, whatnot. Ashwin is from VIT Vellore. He's got a good educational background. He scored well in his undergrad. Although we'll be talking about their individual journey so far and how they managed to crack their admits.
Thank you, Raza. Hey guys, what's up?
Okay. So before we go ahead, I'll quickly introduce the format of this entire webinar to you guys, everyone who's attending over here. It's going to be an interactive session where we have complete liberty to raise our hands, maybe ask for anything that we have in our mind to our guests. And moreover, we'd be talking about their personal experience, their winning strategies, and how they managed to crack their way forward. Yeah? Okay. So starting with the session, Joanna, I'd like you to share about your background. What were you up to all this while? What influenced you to take this decision of studying abroad?
Okay. So long story short, I finished my master's from the University of Madras in 2012. And immediately after that, I joined the Indian Air Force in the administration branch. But since then, since 2012 to now, my career has been centered around operations in the Air Force itself, primarily to do with air defense. So since I was commissioned as a short service commissioned officer, I finished my term of engagement, which was 10 years last June, in June 2023. And I always knew that, I wanted to study for a year at least before getting to work outside. Because the Air Force is an amazing world in itself. But there's so much happening on the world outside that you kind of I felt I needed to kind of expand my horizons. And that's the reason I felt that I needed to study. And what better way to kind of know what's happening in the world outside rather than immerse yourself into an MBA program. So that's how I started exploring MBA programs. And this last year has been primarily towards that. So that's been my journey so far. 10 years of experience in the Air Force and a master's in psychology, and both completely unrelated, but both very interlinked as well. So yeah.
That's quite interesting, Joanna. And how did you end up getting admitted in Oxford and Cambridge? If you could just brief up your entire journey from the last 6 months till this point.
Okay, so my decision to do my MBA, I always knew I wanted to do my GMAT and all that and get into an MBA program. But I wasn't too confident of my own quant ability. But then when I got my GMAT scores at the end of it, I was pleasantly surprised when I saw the scores myself. that kind of pushed me to start punching above my weight and kind of aim for colleges, top universities, business schools around the world. And because of the fact that I was aiming to get kind of like a multidisciplinary approach to business and not just things, so I decided to apply in universities across both in the UK and in the US, which were not just business schools but also had other departments as well. So I applied to 3 schools in the US, 3 schools in the UK, and a couple of Indian schools as well. And yeah, I think so the process started like last September is when I start my GMAT, which is, and I got my applications in for round 2, which the deadline was in Jan. I got called in for interviews in February, March, and I got my admits in mid-March uh, in Oxford and Cambridge, and one Indian university as well. And for reasons which are multifaceted, I'm choosing to go to the Cambridge Judge Business School.
That's impressive. Moving on to you, Ashwin. What was your background and what influenced you to take this step of studying abroad and then applying to the top universities in your program?
That's gonna be a long story. No, but then my background basically, so I graduated in computer science engineering from VIT Vellore. I was 2018, 2022 batch. Uh, I grew up all around India and then moved to Dubai and just came back 2 years ago, officially. But then, and I was always interested in cybersecurity. I mean, I did land up in the field by some form of serendipity. It was not something that I chose consciously over the years and made my moves accordingly and finally ended up. It's something that happened very organically, almost by an accident. But then I'm thankful that I'm here. Currently, I'm working with PepsiCo. I'm a senior information security engineer. Right now, I'm based out of Hyderabad. I just flew back into my native today morning. But yeah, that's pretty much background of sorts about me.
Perfect, perfect. Now that you guys have cracked the entire process, I would consider you guys as the experts here as well, right? So let's address the burning questions that a lot of people have over here. Everyone who's present over here, welcome to this call. And please feel free to raise your hands, unmute your mics, and just ask any questions that you may in between. Now, starting off with you, Joanna, I'm sure you must have started off as someone who's confused and started navigating the space yourself, right? So, how was the navigation process for you, and how did you understand the entire process initially, and at what point did you choose to opt for professional help?
Okay, so like I said, I always knew that when I left the Air Force, I would want to study for a year. So I was looking at courses in masters in public administration. I was looking in business administration and all of that. And in 2022, I had given in my application for a masters in public administration program to a university in the US. And that was quite hurried, because I had just given birth. My daughter was 5 months old, and I wrote my GRE in that state. I kind of, it was a whole haze, that entire thing. So I know that I sent in my only feedback for all the documents that I sent in and all my essays and all of that was my husband, who was, quite, who's an expert in his own domain, but not probably in, this process of it. And I didn't get through. So when I decided to, start pursuing and look at options for my MBA, I think the time I was supposed to be spending preparing for my GMAT was time I was wasting, just looking through colleges. And at that point of time, I was like zero clarity in thought because I didn't know where I wanted to study. I had no clue whether it was the US or the UK or other places in Europe or Australia or India even. Like I was just completely confused, and I found that a lot of time was wasted kind of, just going through university web pages, seeing rankings and all of that, and left me uh, very unclear at the end of the process. At the end of every day, I would be more confused than when I began. And at that point of time was when I was also had like a lot of issues personally. My mom's health was bad and we were transitioning, all of that. And I realized that I couldn't do this by myself. I needed help. And he did call me Superwoman Raza in the beginning, but at this point of time, I wasn't feeling like a superwoman at all. I really desperately needed, expert help to figure out and navigate my way. And that's when I came across Yocket. which kind of helped me streamline my process and kind of said, okay, listen, you want to do business, so maybe these countries are not what you should be looking at, and maybe these are the countries you should consider. And kind of gave me pointers and it was a reality check. I think my first conversation with my advisors was a major reality check in terms of what I wanted to do, where I wanted to be, whether I had the time and the wherewithal to kind of do all that. So yeah, I think that was how I kind of began my journey.
Right. And how was it with you, Ashwin? Did you go through the entire phase too, or did you have any seniors who were guiding you? And how was your interaction with seniors in your early research phase?
All right. So yeah, so I mean, I did go through a bit of a struggle phase here because I was not really sure what I wanted to do. To be very honest, like I mentioned before, I didn't know if I wanted to pursue, like a traditional corporate job, work for a couple of years, then go to my master's or something like that, or I don't know if I had to go directly for master's. There was a lot of confusion that was happening when I was in college, and you know how a lot of people tend to pitch in what their ideology is about masters and work and stuff like that. So I was also kind of caught up in between, and I was pretty impressionable back then in the sense that if someone says something, I would probably go research about it and then kind of decide that, okay, I like this, I'm going to pursue this. Then someone would say something else, and I would, oh, I like this better. So post college, I was about to go for my master's. I mean, all my documentations and everything were already done, and I was about to submit the applications. And that's when I've kind of realized that someone told me quite early that if you do your master's in a field that you're not really interested, you will forever underqualify or overqualify yourself. So that kind of really stuck with me, and I kind of wanted to explore the field before I jump and do a master's and kind of, maybe it's a wrong connotation, but kind of pigeonhole myself into one single industry. So that's when when PepsiCo came in, took my interview for cybersecurity, somehow when things rolled out as it was supposed to. And then I kind of decided to take the leap after almost 2 years of working to go and do my master's. And that's when I kind of started evaluating my options. I'm someone who, even though I take my own decisions and I have my, own analysis and own research, stuff like that, I do like it being validated by someone else telling that, hey, this is right, this is wrong. Maybe you should try this, maybe you should try that. So that's how I kind of ended up after checking out a lot of consultancies. I kind of ended up in Yocket, the sheer amount of data that you guys possessed. So I just wanted to leverage that. I just want to be part of that ecosystem. And that's how I kind of ended up picking Yocket and worked out.
So when you talk about data and when you talk about counseling, how do you think exactly counseling helped you, and at what point did the data pitch in? What
Okay.
decision making did it really help you with?
That's a great question. So this whole concept of data came to me via a senior of mine. So he was doing his master's in Germany. So he's the one who kind of introduced me this stuff. So initially I was pretty against consultancies, and I was not really interested in, going with someone or something like that. I had that mentality of doing everything independently, which in hindsight is not a good idea if you don't have a lot of time. So he kind of told me that, hey, listen, think about it in a pure statistic sort of way. Think about it in a data sort of fashion. So by data, I mean that to me, at least according to my point of view, is that it's better for someone who has seen thousands of SOPs, thousands of applications, admits, rejects, to kind of have that third eye over your application than maybe one senior who wrote one SOP and got into one great college. I mean, again, I could be horribly wrong here, but so far in my case, I really felt like that's something that really worked out. I could see the stark difference in experiences. You can write an SOP very good once, but you need not be an expert in kind of judging how someone else's story is, someone else's journey is. So I kind of wanted that help. So which is why I thought coming to someone who would have sent people in cybersecurity, and my journey throughout college was a bit odd. I was never someone who sort of decided to do one thing from day one and keep it going for the entire 4 years. I used my entire college period to explore, be it go from developmental coding or competitive coding, or if it's, I used to do a lot of MUNs. So I used to do a lot of human rights counsel. I used to specialize in rule of law. So these are sort of things that I used to keep doing in between, and I was really confused on how can I draft my journey, put it into 2,000, 3,000 words, and give it to someone so that they can judge my entire life. And I was confident that I would not be competent to do that, and I would require some form of help. So that's how I kind of ended up deciding that I need a consultancy, and then after a couple of review process, that I kind of ended up with Yocket.
Exactly. That's a good pick over there, because bringing to your notice the amount of student data that we have. We are a community of 2.1 million students online. We have the database and student profiles have gotten into various universities. And exactly, interpretation becomes really easy in that way, right? Talking about your experience, Joanna, you went really ambitious with the colleges that you were applying to, right? Could you talk about the colleges that you applied and the colleges that you got admitted to? How did you crack it and what worked for you?
So for those of you who are, familiar with the MBA thing, so I applied to the Wharton Business School, which is in the University of Pennsylvania. I think that's number one in the world. I applied to Carnegie Mellon, their business school, Tepper. I applied to Cornell's business school also, the Samuel Johnson Business School. And I applied to Oxford and I applied to Cambridge. And the only target university, because all of these were ambitious, and the only target university on my list was the University of Manchester's Alliance Business School. And like I said, what kind of made me like punch above my weight was probably my GMAT score. So when I saw my GMAT score, it was quite disbalanced, but it was a really good score holistically. So I decided, okay, why not? Just try. And but yeah, I think the whole process itself was quite at all. I got admit. I didn't get into Wharton. Like I didn't even get called to interview. But I think that was the first university. I enjoyed the process. I really enjoyed the process of writing out my application to Wharton. The essays kind of made me introspect quite a bit. The first thing, and then I got waitlisted. I'm still waitlisted at Carnegie Mellon and Cornell. And Oxford and Cambridge were for me a better choice, a better option, because they're 1-year MBA programs. And for somebody who's already got 10 years of work experience in my kitty, a 1-year program seems to be a better fit than a 2-year program at this stage. So in a way, it's worked out perfectly. So I think for me, I don't regret choosing universities or applying to universities that I would not have applied to ideally in other circumstances, because I think that kind of pushes you to be better. Kind of pushes you to see, what is out there, and kind of the quality that's expected out there, and the kind of what to look for in other universities as well. So, and I think all of that is kind of met here. I see a question about my GMAT score. It was 730. But then it was quite disbalanced. My verbal scores were really good, and my quant was like just above average. Yeah.
Amazing. And Joanna, considering that you've been working since the last 10 years and then opting to take GMAT, how tricky was it, and how did you handle studying again after 10 years? How was the experience for you?
Okay, I'm going to let you guys in on a little secret. Air Force is not just about, I think it's about a lot of studying. I think I studied till my last day in the Air Force. Okay. But yeah, it's like study that's not transferable. It's studying about weapons, studying about aircraft. It's a little bit of math as well, especially in my branch. But I think what was expected for me in terms of, ideally speaking, it would be like dedicated time for your GMAT, right? Like you would want to like figure in 2 hours a day, 3 hours a day and all that. And that's what I would read about other people's experiences. But in my case, I really couldn't do that because, like I said, no, I have a 1-year-old. I had a 1-year-old daughter at that time. I was like the primary caregiver for my mom who was down with cancer. Completely off. And then, so I really didn't have the time to be able to kind of dedicate for GMAT. But it was always, like sitting in the hospital in the waiting time when the baby was sleeping, and it was just like all bits and pieces kind of together. And I think that's where the Air Force has kind of helped in a way that it didn't make me wait for the perfect time, for the perfect atmosphere, but just helped me be flexible with the kind of time I had. And I think but despite all that, with all the bits and pieces, I'm just amazed at how, the score came through, and I'm just grateful to God for that. I mean, I know that it's not just me, it's completely God.
Totally, totally. There's always someone who's backing us at all times. Guys, we are open to questions. So if in case anyone has any questions, just raise your hands or put your question in the comment box. We can address them as we go. Moving on to the real questions here, right? Firstly, both of you have applied to the top universities, the top programs in both your segments. So firstly, how was your counselor's involvement in this shortlisting process? How did they encourage you to target these top universities? And moreover, what are these universities looking out for? Starting with you, Ashwin, what is your take on it?
All right. Uh, so I had a super weird take on the whole college stuff. Uh, like Joanna mentioned that I knew I was totally punching above my weight. But I had this ideology back in my mind that if I were to go for masters, if I were to uproot my entire life, go to another country, start afresh, then I want to do it only for the best of the best of the best. If I were not getting in, then I would wait, build up my profile, apply again until I get in there. I did not want to settle again. I mean, just a small warning there. I don't believe in the concept of a tier one, tier two, tier three, tier four college sort of system. But then there is some form of segmenting that comes there due to the research output, the quality of faculties, the curriculum, and stuff like that. So with that metric in mind, I wanted to go, and rankings is a decently good enough metric to kind of assess that. So which is why I applied for. So in my course, at least in cybersecurity, Carnegie Mellon University, again, rankings change every year, but most on an average, Carnegie Mellon University stands at #1 in the world. Then you have Georgia Tech and CMU kind of go neck and neck. You have ETH Zurich in Switzerland, and you have University of Washington. There's a couple of universities that have, actually, there's very less universities that have a dedicated master's in cybersecurity. All of them have computer science with cybersec as a specialization. For example, Stanford had that. And I actually wanted to apply there, but I wrote IELTS instead of TOEFLs, and I couldn't apply because they needed TOEFLs. But ultimately, at the end of the day, that was my whole sort of ideology behind looking for which colleges that I were to shortlist. And coming to how Yocket consultants helped me, they kind of gave me a reality check, and I think that is super important. Someone needs to tell you that, hey, listen, all your ideologies and all your prep and everything is good, but you kind of need to come back to the ground reality, sort of understand how selective these programs are. I had a lot of seniors who graduated from these colleges who told me that maybe let's keep the hopes a bit down. We don't want you to get completely discouraged and demotivated if something goes wrong. Apply to some safety, some target, some reach, stuff like that. But then I was kind of very adamant in the fact that if I'm going for the best, else I'm not going. So yeah, again, I would not recommend that to everyone, but that is something that I followed. So Yocket Consultants kind of helped me map that thing out. They kind of told me that, yeah, this might be a reach for you, but we can try. This could be a target for you. We can try. So they kind of helped me narrow that down from a long list of 10, 12 universities to kind of around 7. But then again, I came to Yocket. First day itself, I came with that statement in mind. Like I told them, I communicated properly. I might be difficult to deal with. I'm sorry for that. But this is what I want to do. This is where I want to go. Please help me out. So that was kind of like how I started with, and that's sort of what I did. I do think we have a question on chat. What do they give more weightage for, GRE or CGPA? Again, I don't know if this was aimed at me, but again, from a master's
Surely we'll
point
take
of
that.
yeah. So again, there is no clear-cut metrics everywhere. If you take a list of alumni from those colleges and see their LinkedIn and their CGPA, you can at some point you can start drawing a pattern. There will always be a bell curve, but you will be able to start plotting out a pattern. Something that I noticed for Georgia Tech and CMU, they were only looking at people. Majority of the people were all 9-pointers, 9.2, 9.3, 9.4. So it was like very studious people. They were pretty on that. And GRE, now a lot of universities are not accepting. I had a very, I would say, very average GRE score of 323. But then I really didn't give it again. I mean, because a lot of people told me that, hey, you're going for CMU, you need 330 plus. If you're not 330 plus, you're just going to get rejected. And so again, there is a lot of myths that flows around in the community, be it Reddit, LinkedIn, WhatsApp. I would say don't pay heed to a lot of that. Don't self-reject yourself with that information. Cool, just take it, keep it in the back of your mind. Kind of try to align. If you're still in college, try to get your CGPA as high as possible. It's never a loss. Beg, borrow, steal, figure out a way to get it high. Try to publish papers, try to study for GRE as fast as you can if it's still going to get accepted. But yeah, don't self-reject yourself if you're not in any of those pre-built categories. Yeah, that's my advice.
Putting forward my take to it, obviously scores and GPA is a no-brainer. You need to have good scores and GPA, but looking at the data, looking at the trends in these top universities, not always people with best GRE and best CGPA get accepted. Personally, an average profile with a great document set always beats a great profile with an average document set. So if you're able to sell yourself, if you're able to put yourself as an ideal candidate in front of these universities, end of the day, that's everything that they're asking for. Hope that answers your question, Yash. Moving on to you, Joanna.
Yes.
How did you approach this entire process? I know for an MBA admit, documents are equally important. So how did you brainstorm your document? How was your document editor's role in helping you craft your documents? And how did the end result turn out compared to the first draft?
Okay. So for me, like the MBA process of admission is quite different, like in the sense that each university has its own set of questions that they'd like you to answer. And a lot of it involves where you want to see yourself immediately after the MBA program and long term after the MBA program. So, I mean, for me, it was a lot of introspection personally in terms of getting my story across in an authentic manner. So that kind of genuinity took a lot of introspection, a lot of work on myself. So, and especially for somebody with my background who's been in a completely different world altogether, when the questions were in terms of where do you see yourself as soon as the course ends, or 5 years from now, 10 years from now. In my first draft, I think it was very generic responses, like I see myself in operations, or it would be like a very generic response altogether, or in thing. And so when my first couple of documents, first essays went in for the draft, it was, the editor was like, oh, I really liked your essay. All of that was great. You've not given me too much of work to do. But here's this sounded vague, and this sounded, you need to delve deeper into this. You need to kind of do more research. And I felt that kind of, because if it was left to me, like if I hadn't had somebody with that experience look into my document, I would have sent it as is. And it would have come across as somebody who's been like a little wishy-washy about it, and not as somebody who's really struggling to know the answers. Like I was really clueless about, what is out there. So I think that feedback helped for someone like me in terms of putting a lot more effort into the process of and figuring out, talking to a lot more people. Because now with this feedback that, didn't come across as good enough, or it didn't come across as well thought out, I started networking. I started talking to more people in the industry, or people who've gone through a similar journey. And I was able to thus polish my answers. So I really enjoyed the whole drafting and editing process. I think that writing is something that I really enjoy. And when this feedback comes through, it kind of helps that give and take kind of polishes something that, and also like a piece of writing, for those of you who are writers, something that you've written is very personal, and you don't feel like cutting out any bit of it. But then you've got to be ruthless with your own editing. And if somebody says, okay, this doesn't work, or maybe you should reconsider this, and that's something that you should really, take with the thing, because it may sound brilliant to you, but it may not be exactly what is required of that time. So I think the editing, the part of it for the essays, and each one of them. So I applied to 6 different universities. 6 different universities each had at least 2 essays each. So about 12 essays that back and forth, and not to seem repetitive, but get, authentic stories across in each of them. I think that process itself was quite enriching and nerve-wracking at the same time. It's a weird combination, but yeah.
Raza, you're speaking on mute.
We can't hear you, Raza. I think
Raza, you're on mute.
Okay. Yeah. So we have a couple more questions here in the chat box. This one from Mr. Surajit asking what maximum percentage of scholarship a student got in MS program with good GRE scores. So now answering your question, scholarships are basically of two types. Firstly, there's merit-based scholarships that are given on a university level, and then we can target non-university based scholarships that are scholarships given by various organizations, local corporation, international bodies, government bodies, financial corporation on various parameters, right? So we need to identify what parameters we qualify in and then apply to these scholarships strategically, wherein if you are opting for Yocket Premium, there's counselors who help you evaluate all possible scholarship options. You have possible scholarships that you might be eligible to secure after you've landed into various universities. We help you identify them and secure scholarships accordingly. And asking about the highest number of scholarships, we've gotten students upwards of 50% tuition fee waived on scholarships. So that is something that you can expect. Although talking about your scholarships, Ashwin and Joanna, how much scholarships did you manage to secure? Joanna?
So I got a military veteran scholarship, which is about £15,000, about 15, 16 lakhs. And that worked to about 1/3 of my course fees and another 5,000 bursary admit. So worked out to be about 20 lakhs, about, little less than, little less than half of the tuition fees.
Talking about your scholarship numbers, Ashwin, what do you have to say?
Okay. So the irony is I've got scholarship from the university that I'm not planning to go to, because the university that I ended up choosing does not give out scholarships in the way that, the conventional form of scholarships. So I've got around $15,000 from University of Washington. They had sent me a separate scholarship along with my admit. I didn't have to write any financial aid application or anything like that. Then I've got around $5,000 from Carnegie Mellon University. So, the others, I really then, the moment I got my Georgia Tech, I kind of dropped everything else looking into that per se. So, and Georgia Tech does not have a conventional scholarship strategy because they're a public university and they have a lot of RA-ships and TA-ships, which are assistant, teaching assistant, grading assistant. They kind of waive off your tuition fee for the entire semester and they give you a stipend. So if you play your cards well, again, this is not my own quote. I saw this on an interview of a fellow Georgia Tech alumni a couple of years back. He told if you play your cards well, you can get paid to study your master's in Georgia Tech. That kind of inspired me a lot. So, which is one of the primary reasons why I ended up picking them. So yeah, you can say around 20K US dollars, which would be around 16, 70 lakhs.
Okay, following up to that question, there's Yash who asks, what are the most important and valuable learnings / takeaways during your journey, which should be given utmost importance? So rephrasing this question, if you were to do the entire process again and segregate your approach based on the importance of every aspect, what would you actually credit your success to? Documentation, profile building, or the entire strategic approach that's been taken place?
I think Joanna would be a great person to answer this before me. Yeah, Joanna, please go ahead.
I think all of them. I don't think you can kind of sideline any bit of your application process, because the one bit that you take casually or you don't give as much thought or seriousness into it, I think that could be the one that kind of brings you down, because universities are not looking at any particular aspect. They're looking at a holistic thing. So I don't think you could kind of sideline any of it or say any of it is not important. But yes, I think the initial portion in terms of choosing where you want to go and why you want to go there kind of makes the rest of the journey easy. And I think you've got to invest a lot of time and effort into that bit of it, like, choosing where and where you want to, why you want to study what you want to study, where you want to go, and uh, why that is important to you. Because that kind of answers a lot of questions during the process.
Yeah, if you want, I can piggyback some points on that as well. Uh, so just adding on to what Joanna said, I think in between she mentioned that everyone has a different journey, and I think that is kind of important. Do not try to put yourself in someone else's mold. Just because someone else got into your dream college, don't follow that formula to get in. Their journey is different. They went through different struggles. They had different experiences. And one thing I would want to say is never really compare your struggles with someone else's struggles. Something that I used to do a lot. I used to be like, oh, okay, so that person did this. If I do all of this, I can get into this college. Doesn't really work out like that. They went through some struggles. They had some learnings from it. They kind of did something that kind of, made them move in one way, and that kind of helped them reach where they are. So I would just say, please be open to a lot of experiences. I don't know how many of you are still in undergrad, how many of you are working. Regardless, please be open to a lot of new experiences. Don't pigeonhole yourself to, the first year of college. You're like, hey, listen, I want to be a software engineer. Done. Or don't be, just explore until the last day of your college. It's that 4-year period where more or less you can explore whatever you want without, having responsibilities of anything else. And you will realize the importance of these experiences all the way once you start doing your applications, be it for MBA, be it for your masters. You would be able to pick those stories from your life. Don't stop yourself from going for any competitions. Don't stop yourself from, kind of trying to something that you might not be able to reach at first, but still, put your hands out. You might be able to grab it at some point. But yeah, so that's like one biggest. And if you ask me if I could do anything different, I probably would say no. During my application process, I mean, I'm a bit of a hypocrite when it comes to this. During my application process, I was very strongly thinking, hey, if I was cybersecurity from day one, I could have had a better profile. But then now that I've seen those who have got admits and those who have got rejects and how things happen, I wouldn't lose any day or any of my experiences in the past. Be it, but okay, I can give a very quick example for this. Georgia Tech had one prompt where they asked, "Do you have any experience in public policy?" Because they are one of world's first multidisciplinary cybersecurity program. They have 3 tracks. One is computer science, one is law, and one is electronics. So as a master's in cybersecurity student, you would ultimately have to pick subjects from all 3 domains. So me going for a lot of MUNs, which in my college, I kind of thought that, hey, this is a huge waste of time. And later I regretted going for it because that kind of hit my academics a bit. But when I saw that prompt and I realized all my friends asking, hey, what do you think we should write? And I had a whole bunch of things that I could write because I went for that competition a couple of years back. So every opportunity is an opportunity. Please take it. At some point, they're going to come to some use.
A quick question for Ashwin sir over here. Someone asked, Ashwin sir, which college are you from and what is your CGPA?
Oh God, okay, it's gonna be very embarrassing. So I'm from, I don't know who calls sir, bro. But hey, I'm from VIT Vellore. So my undergrad CGPA was 8.91, which is very low on the bell curve when you put it into colleges like Carnegie Mellon and Georgia Tech. I never, to be very honest, I did not, during my initial search, I did not even find one alumni who had less than 9.2 CGPA. So I had already self-rejected myself, thinking that I'm not going to crack Georgia Tech, but I just still applied because I saw that interview of that alumni long back, and I just didn't want to lose that offer, so I just applied nevertheless. But yeah, so when you put it on a grand scheme of things, there's a lot of things that come. There's grade deflation, grade inflation. At some points, you would feel like, hey, I studied a lot better. I did a lot of better stuff, but someone from some university, because of grade inflation, has a 9.7, 9.8 CGPA, and that's going to be, might be, it's the real world. Nothing ever happens the way that you want to. Sometimes things go wrong. Sometimes things don't go the way that you want to. But if you can consolidate everything to a very good journey, so a lot of people, a lot of people told me that my CGPA was good. A lot of people told me that your CGPA is very bad. So again, it's very subjective. So until you get in, you will not know that where you in that right category. So I strongly believe what Raza said. Have a decent profile, get good documentation done, prepare your journey, write it out on a piece of paper, and it's just gonna work out.
Exactly what I encounter when I speak to the students. My role here at Yocket is to counsel students, counsel them, and advise them about the best practices of study abroad. And I come across a lot of students who are actually underweighing themselves with solely their marks, right? But if you see data, if you actually look into the database that we have, we've got students studying into the likes of Ivy Leagues and top 50 universities with marks as low as 7, 7.5, and 6.5 CGPA at times, right? That clearly states that more than your marks, these universities are concerned about what intent you are coming in with, right? And documents is the best way to show your intent. And to supplement your document weightage, you need to have a good profile. And now is the best time for everyone who's starting to consider studying abroad. We are early guys. Everyone here has the privilege of having extra time right now. If your profile isn't as good, we can make it better. We can make it uh, up to the university standards, refine it, and then compress it in a good document set to put yourself as a better product in front of these universities. So Ashwin, talking about your documentation journey, obviously the last thing that you do before application is documenting, right? How did you manage to get those creative juices out? How did your document editor guide you through the entire process, and how many iterations and corrections did you put your documents through?
I think I must have put my editor through hell. But yeah, again, I just want to. I think I forgot one point. If a lot of your undergrads, if you're in your second year, and if you're not say for example, you want to go for masters in computer science, but you guys are doing electronics right now, or electrical, or mechanical, or whatever. If you still have time, go do that minor in the course that you want to. Go take electives in the course that you want to, because ultimately, see, this game is not like like the law of averages. There will be outliers. There'll be those seniors that have the poorest of grades. Everything doesn't seem to work out for them, but somehow they'll crack in. You might not be able to replicate that, so that success. But if you are at that time in your college right now and you have access to those seniors, talk to them, think where you want to go, and start picking those subjects as soon as possible, so that kind of strengthens your application. Some colleges do look for it. It's kind of unfortunate. But yeah, if you're in electrical, you want to jump to computer science, make sure you start picking up courses like that. Just coming back to Raza's question. So again, like I feel like I'm kind of an outlier in every category you mentioned, because I had a year and a half background in content writing, digital marketing, and enterprise sales. So that was kind of that's my internship that I did in my third year, where I got a PPO. And towards end of almost mid of my fourth year is when I decided I don't want to go for an MBA. I want to stick to security for some more time, stick to technology, and completely shifted my domain. So that 1.5 years of experience in content, managing content for a very huge startup that was based out of the US, controlling search engine optimization that spanned millions of dollars every month at a very young age. That kind of, and training interns and things like that, that kind of gave me the confidence in my writing skills, kind of helped me polish that a lot. So I never had a lot of issue in putting down my thoughts into paper. That was kind of okay. My issue was, how do I connect it to a good story? And when you work in content marketing, things like that, you tend up to elaborate everything. You want to draw out everything. You want to get the emotions. You want to get the hooks. That does not work for a university SOP. If you're going to very technical colleges like Georgia Tech, CMU, ETH, Zurich, they don't want to hear that childhood story. Granted, some people do write it, and they do it in a very good way and get in, but they want a pure technical sort of stuff. So I kind of had an issue there. So I had a very good editor. She was very cooperative. I used to have those comments on Google Docs, 100, 200 comments on every iteration. I used to ask her, should I write this word? Should I write that word? What do you think? So I put her through hell. But then I'm really thankful that she was there. She gave me that perspective. She told me, hey, listen, we don't need the story. And like Joanna mentioned in the starting, it's very hard to cut out, true stories in your life that you want to put out on a piece of paper. So a lot of people lie on their SOPs. A lot of people have those. When I was a child, I opened my computer. That's when I felt interested in computer science engineering. So a lot of people have that. But I used to do a lot of volunteering for NGOs. I used to work for a lot of underprivileged communities, a lot of women empowerment where I used to go and teach them cybersecurity. So I had those stories. Those stories were real. But when you read them, it didn't feel like that. So she used to always ask me, hey, are you sure? Do you really want to put it in? I'm like, yeah, let's put this story. Let's remove the others. So she really helped me through. I don't know where I would have been without her looking at my SOPs. But yeah, so some people tend to be very critical of their writing. Some people tend to be not at all critical of their writing. You need to have somewhere in between. If you're too critical, you're always going to self-reject every single line. If you think you write too good, then you're always going to overestimate yourself. There is a very fine balance that a counselor can help you find. So yeah, so I'm really thankful for her.
Perfect. We have a question from Yash. Laksh. Laksh is asking, how do we get best universities for masters? So, Laksh, best universities, it's a subjective question. Something that is best for me wouldn't be the best for you, obviously. There would be various parameters that you're considering: location, budget, course, right? Specialization. Uh, clear, keep a clear picture in your mind as to what you want. Then research about the universities. Do not take a conservative approach. Go ambitious. Have a good balance of ambitious universities while still applying to moderate universities if that is a priority. Going in this intake is a priority. Otherwise, if you are someone like Joanna or Ashwin who just wants the top names and get into the top universities, the best thing would be to start early, understanding what these universities want, going into the details of program specialization, faculty expertise, research, career prospects of those universities to tailor your application to those universities and then maybe apply to them. Yeah. So, Joanna, lastly, a question from you. MBAs have MBAs have a very extensive interview process, right? So how did you prepare for your university interviews? How was your approach like, and how did you fine tune it?
Okay. Before I answer that, Raza, I think Shahid has a question regarding 1-year MBAs. If I can just quickly answer that.
Please.
Shahid, again, it's a really personal choice, like what Raza was saying. So for me, considering my background, wherein I've already got 10 years of experience, so because of that, considering my age and all like certain other personal factors as well, a 1-year MBA seemed the best fit for me. But I think what is important is that you look at see this particular course, both the ones that I had chosen in Cambridge and Oxford have a lot of industry interaction throughout the course. So yes, there's no summer internship per se, which is characteristic of a 2-year program. But then throughout, like especially in the Cambridge and if you look at the Oxford program as well, there's a lot of industry interaction. There are a lot of projects that you do, live projects that you're doing with companies outside. So and I think we've got to honestly also look at the fact that MBA is also a time where you network a lot. So you're looking at not just in terms of yes, a 2-year MBA, if you have the time and if you have the resources in terms of the money, in terms of all of that, I think it's a good investment in yourself. But for me, a 1-year program seemed a better fit in terms of the rate on the return on the investments that I'm putting in terms of my time, in terms of the money, in terms of the country itself, like in terms the living expenses, all of that. And in terms of the quality I'm getting at the end of it, there was no compromise for me in terms of the quality. So the curriculum itself, it seemed like a really good tailor-made for me because it kind of lets you explore a whole range of options. And that's exactly what I was looking for in an MBA program. So that's why 1 year, but again, it's a very personal choice that each individual would have to make. Coming back to your question, Raza, about the interview process. So I got called in for interviews at Oxford, Cambridge, and at Alliance, and also to the Indian universities. And I think what helped really was that when I went for the Indian universities, I did a lot of research. I was like, okay, maybe it all seemed logical. Like when you read up on the internet and when you see YouTube videos and you know what's happening out there, it seems okay, I know this. Yes, this is something that, okay, this is I would have to work on. And you kind of make a list of questions and all that. You'll research, you look at universities. But what really helped me, I think, were mocks that I did. For the Indian universities, my mock interviewer was my husband. So that didn't go down too well because any negative feedback would blow up into an argument. So, but I think here what helped in Yocket was the fact that you have these counselors, these advisors who kind of helped people a lot and who've seen the kind of questions that are asked typically for your programs and all that. So I sat down for a couple of mocks with both my own advisor. Then she put me onto somebody else. They put me a lot, and then at the end of it, there was a lot of constructive feedback that came in. A lot of things like things that you would have to be more conscious of in an online interview than you would in an in-person interview. Certain gestures, certain body language, and all of that. Which considering a person like me, I thought I was okay with communicating. No, that it wouldn't have to be too much of a problem. But then I realized that there were certain things that I needed to be conscious of, and a lot of questions and a lot of input that came into. Okay, you need to think on these lines. In terms of actually doing your research, I think that's really important. Yes, you do your research in your application process, but when you go in for the interview, you can't just go and sit and like, it's just me they want to know about. They're also trying to assess your interest in their program in particular. So I can think that feedback also that came in from the counselors in terms of researching the program itself, researching the university and why it is special to you, and be honest about any questions you want to ask them. Not just come up with some generic questions that you would like to ask them, but be very specific. Like if it's something that really it's on your mind that you're thinking that came across, that you would ask them those questions. So I think that way the mocks really helped me in giving, like Ashwin was saying in reference to the thing, you either tend to overestimate yourself or underestimate yourself. A mock from a third person who's not your husband kind of gives you a realistic picture on, who you are and where you need to work. So I think that really helped me.
Ashwin, there's a question for you. There's someone who's asking, is it important to start off early? So how would you answer that question?
Yeah, okay, I was just going through that right now. That's a great question, Pavani. And I would really love to piggyback it. I'm sort of connected with the answer that Joanna gave right now. So to me, the best day to start was yesterday. If you're thinking of starting tomorrow, you're already sort of late. Because this entire process is very stressful. Like, I am not going to lie. You'll be having a lot of sleepless nights. You'll be having a lot of arguments. You'll be having a lot of self-doubt, a lot of insecurities, a lot of comparisons. So this is a game that you play for the long term. This is not a game that you jump on the last minute and sort of, try to, you know, just push your way through and kind of end up at success. So my personal journey was I started prepping for my GRE 2023 March, and I gave it in 2023 June, I believe, June or July. So the whole point of starting early is that you get a lot of time to plan your entire life. See, the moment you're serious about applying to universities, you're serious about going for masters, your entire life is going to revolve around this. Nothing else is going to happen. Every day you will be thinking what line to write in your SOP. Every day you will be thinking what should I have done better that would have made my life better. So having almost 1 year or a year and a half, in fact 2 years would be a great amount of time. I feel like I could have scored a lot more in GRE if I had like tons of time. But yeah, and also the thing is, yeah, so this is the point where I want to connect with Joanna's line, right? So if you start early, you will start finding your own people, right? Find your own gang. Not, I mean, besides from your friends, if you have a group of 10 friends, 9 of them might not be applying for masters. They're not going to understand your struggles. They're not going to understand why are you doing, so much work, so much struggle. They're probably not going to get it, right? So find your own people. Find the people that you're going to apply masters with. If you start early, you're going to end up in those Reddit posts, those WhatsApp groups, and you're going to find your own special small gang that is going to support you through thick and thin. I mean, I would give 50% of the credit of where I'm at, like majority of that to my parents and majority of that to my friends. They have hopped on calls for hours with me where I kept on telling them, hey, this line is bad. I don't think I can, write it. I need some help. I need this. And they were all there through that, even though they knew what I was saying might not be right or wrong or whatever. You need to find those people. So the earlier you start, the earlier you find those people, the earlier you get your support system, the earlier you get time to plan out, earlier you get to talk to the alumni, earlier you get to talk to your seniors, more time is always more better in the master's game. So yeah, so that is my advice. Even if you're not planning for masters, just think of yourself as a person who's planning to go for masters and kind of prep your life around it. Like, if you don't even have to apply for masters. If your friend is applying for masters, it's a topic they're interested in, be with them in their journey. At some point when you apply for masters, those are transferable skills. Those are going to help you. If I knew that, I should have started writing my SOPs from 2023 March. In 2023 December, I would have had a great iteration. I would have had to break the head of my editor. So so start early. That's the earlier you can start, the better. So yeah.
Okay. So we have our last 5 minutes of discussion. So if anyone has any more questions, they can quickly drop it in the chat box. Meanwhile, there's another question for you, Ashwin, from Pratik. I think you can take it forward.
Should we apply for journalism? Okay, cool. So if you're going for technical masters in computer science is going to be one of the most competitive course that you can ever try for in the current industry scenarios. I'm talking about masters, like not like an MBA or something. That is a different ball game when it comes to competitiveness. But if you're going for masters, technical programs, computer science is one of the most difficult one to get in. And colleges like Carnegie Mellon, Stanford, MIT, Caltech, Harvard, these are like, like your top tier colleges. So they require, okay, I will tell you a quick personal story. After getting my admit from Carnegie Mellon, I joined an introduction call with the entire cohort. And I saw that there were, all India rank 5, IIT JEE, some are quant traders, some are startup founders. I got shocked. There was, like a creme de la creme. There was an upper echelon of people that I never knew existed in my life. I never thought I would get on a call with, that all India rank top 10, all India rank 5, 3, 4. So it's very competitive at the top when you go to these type of universities. So I would always say, try to work in the field that you want to. Try to align your, if you're 100% sure that you want to go for machine learning, or if you want to go for data science or something, try to align your entire profile towards that. Be as competitive as you can in getting those certifications, getting those research papers out. I would really recommend everyone to do research. If you're still in college, you have at least one cooperative faculty. Go do a research with them. Try to push out a paper or two. That's going to really boost your profiles if you still can. It's one of the when all my juniors ask me, I tell two things: try to push your CGP as much as you can, and try to do any sort of research that you can, because these top colleges care about that. They are not looking at what they can offer you; they are looking at what you can offer them. It's not why do you want to go to Carnegie Mellon? It's why should Carnegie Mellon pick you? What does Carnegie Mellon have an advantage after picking you? So that's sort of what they are looking at once you go to that, super top tier universities. So yeah. I think that's basically want to give what advice to them. Yeah.
Perfect. I think it's just about time that we wrap up our conversation. Lastly, there's one question from Rohit who asks, is it easy for electronics and telecommunication student to pursue masters in computer science? To answer this question, Rohit, nothing is easy. In fact, you have to work for it. But yes, it's possible. And there's a lot of students who have managed to get into top universities with a change of majors. You need to give them a good enough reason to onboard you, to a good enough reason to accept your application. Firstly, you can work towards it, build your application, build an understanding of that domain. Just don't hop onto the bandwagon of taking up CS because everyone else is taking up CS. If you have interest, you can work towards it, build your profile, earn enough credits in the required course sections, and then apply. And yes, as long as your profile is good and you have enough credibility in that field, the universities are open to hearing you out. Okay, so it's about 8 p.m. now. We will have to wrap up this session. Thank you so much, Joanna. Thank you so much, Ashwin, for joining this conversation. Super happy to hear about your admits. Have a wonderful time ahead in your lives. I'm sure you're gonna explore the next chapter of your life soon. So, congrats.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Raza. I mean, I feel quite honored to be on the same panel as Joanna, not going to lie. I mean, so that's kind of cool. So, I mean, this kind of made my day. Thank you so much, guys. It means a lot.
See you
Please
guys.
feel
All the
to,
best to the
yeah. Bye-bye.
And everyone else who's thinking about joining Yocket and getting on board Yocket Premium, now is the best time. We are assigning our teams for the coming month in the couple days. So if you want to get on board with the best teams and in the best time, now is the best time. And in fact, as Ashwin said, if you want to start the process, yesterday was the best time for you. So I guess we're already late, and let's not delay this process any further. Contact your advisors, contact your personal advisor, and ask them about the best discounts that can give you on your personal program, and join the bandwagon as soon as possible. Cheers to everyone who's joined the call. See you guys and have a good day. Bye.